Alright, let's get into the tutorial for Sigma Square. So, the first thing we're going to go over is the opener, which I call Sigma, just because it looks like a Sigma. Then we'll get into the cross, which is the first part of the display, and then how to go from the cross to the square. And after that, we'll go over the closer, which is nothing too hard. So let's get into it. Now, before we move further, I happen to be a lefty, and you're probably, that is statistically, a righty. So instead of using right hand, left hand, and confusing myself and yourself, I'm going to refer to this hand, my right hand, your left hand likely, the hand that usually holds the deck in place, as the bottom hand, and the other hand as the top hand. So let's start with the opener. I call this Sigma. We'll get up to here. So this is actually something that happens in two parts. On one hand, in the bottom hand, you have the you just have a chalier type of cut, nothing too fancy. On the other hand, you have a hinge, which is held in this position, so between the middle finger and the thumb, and the corners of the packets are actually roughly in the middle of the fingers. The reason for that is that when I'm going to pull half of this deck down, I'm going to have this hinge that works pretty well. So when you put those together, the first thing you're going to do is squeeze half of the packet, so that you could remove it if you wanted to, but you're not going to remove it, you're going to keep it in place. With your thumb, you're going to riffle off something like a quarter of the deck from the bottom, and you have this grip, which is very specific because there's some thumb left on the top, and using that you're going to open up the hinge. And as you open up the hinge, you open up the bottom, and you have a Sigma. On the top, you're going to squeeze this open, split this in half, and open the hinge as you release the chalier. So that's the opener. Right, so once you're in the Sigma, you're going to get into this cross position. This is how you do this. So you're here. Again, there are two actions that happen at the same time. For the top hand, you're going to hinge this packet all the way over here. And as you do that, you're going to push up with the index so that it just goes over where you would start closing with the chalier, but you don't let it close yet. Use your index curled under to maintain that position. And so that gives you a little square in the middle. And that's crucial because that little square is going to grow into a big old square. So yeah, from the top, you have Sigma, push this, clip it with your ring finger, and put this in place. Again, these are two separate entities, but we put them together for the sake of aesthetics. So, once you got to the cross, now we're going to go to the growing portion of the cut. This is a bit tricky because a lot of things happen at the same time. So, I'll try to break it down. The first thing that happens is that your bottom hand is going to start finishing that chalier. Now, to do this, all of both your hands and the whole system really needs to rotate 90 degrees to end up in some kind of basically this position. Though of course, cards are going to have moved by that point. And to do that, you just rotate the hands just like this as everything happens. So this allows you to get into this position, which gets you the bottom, one of the bottom angles. And so that's what that hand does. The hinge hand, the top hand, is in a bit of a trickier situation. First thing it does is that it releases the grip on the bottommost packet, in this case the 10 of hearts. What this allows is movements like this, basically, which is really important. And as you rotate, you're going to let the 10 of hearts packets slide down to the fingers of your bottom hands. Now, as you're doing that, you're raising your hand a bit from the Ten of Hearts packet, such that you get this new angle here, which is going to be here, while your Chalier hand is like this. So you basically get this position. Except, of course, you're a lot more relaxed because the Ten of Hearts packet is resting between those fingers and your ring finger. So, from the top, we get that. We have this. Just like that. So a couple of difficulties involved are, first of all, doing everything at the same time. It's a bit tricky, but it's a matter of practice. Of course, so one thing you'll notice is that this index, as it curls in to let this packet fall down at a smooth rate, it needs to get out of the way at some point. Otherwise, it can't lay flat. That's something that takes time, I guess, because you need to unlearn doing the Chalier in a way. But it's a matter of practice, as cardistry is. Also, the top hand in general is just kind of tricky to get the right motion of. Yeah, just make sure you understand what you're doing, and what it might be worth your time to close your eyes for a second and think about where your fingers are and what they're doing, and really focus on that. Now that you've gone through the square part, now it's the easy part, the closure. So what you're going to do is push this down, so this packets get put down. Now you're going to close the Chalier with your bottom hand, just like this, and that pushes the hinge outwards. With your top hand index, you're going to hinge that out, and now you're going to grip this in straddle to open this up and push the hinge out to close this packet. Once again, once you've done this, you're going to push this down, just like this, with your index, just like that. And there you have it, that's Sigma. Alright, so that was Sigma Square. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to tag me on Instagram if you have a performance. I'd love to see it and give you some advice, etc. I'm also putting up a tutorial on my own Instagram for a variation. It's a bit of a simpler tutorial, more of a walkthrough. But yeah, enjoy that and keep flourishing. Have a good one.